What's up, everybody? My name is Phoenix, aka Brandon. This is episode 41 of the Anime Dojo. I'm alongside Chris and Deon. Gentlemen, how you doing this evening?
What's good, B Mac? I'm good.
So we have a lot to get into. We have a couple things to touch on. We have that Demon Slayer. The movie's coming out in the end of February. They actually put out some teaser things, and we kind of have maybe understanding how long this is going to be. That's very interesting. We'll get into that. We also have that My Hero Academia's movie is getting their release date pretty soon as well, and we understand what the title and a little trailer has been teased for it. We'll talk about that. Then the last thing we're talking about, Rick and Morty, which is a very popular show in the States and probably around the world, is trying to do an anime of Rick and Morty itself. We'll get in that because one of them, Chris and one of them, we kind of talked about already, but one of them has a really strong opinion about that. Then we'll do the charts. Then we'll get into the episodes. Matching Muscles episode 16 and Soul Level episode 4. So we'll start off with this, gentlemen. We'll start off with the fact that Demon Slayer we're getting to the premiere stuff. We're getting to the fact that we're gonna get them to premiere in Japan in about February 10th. Then it's gonna hit the US pretty soon after, maybe about a week or so after. We have had confirmation that the movie is gonna be about an hour and 44 minutes from what this report has given us. But then if you look on like Fandango, it's about 2 hours and 10 minutes. What do you think about this, Dion? Because that indicates to me one of two things. One, we're either getting the last episode from the previous arc, which that wasn't confirmed yet, or like Chris and me talked about, we're going to get the whole arc of the Hashira training arc in one shot. Do you think that might happen?
There's a chance that we could get the entire thing in one shot. I mean, we've done it before. With this particular with the Mugen Train arc.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is they have had a history of changing things up on us. So we may get half the arc and maybe get spoiled for the rest of it. What did I do?
Okay. Before I go to Chris, I know why you're laughing, Chris. And here's the funny part. I actually do not disagree with Dion on this point. I could see them doing that. I could see them technically doing the thing where we get half the arc right off the bat, and then we get the second half as an episodic thing. Easy way to do it, because ultimately I'm not gonna go into spoiler territory because I've read the manga. When I was on my trip. I had read the last 14 and 15, which is where this takes place at the end of book 14 and most of 15. It's only, I think, when I told Chris, like maybe 8 chapters, 18 chapters. It's short for the Hashira arc. It's the shortest arc of the series. If they do it in one shot, cool. If they don't, still cool, because based on what I've read, they could do other episodes based on certain things too.
Like, I ain't mad at it.
So, Chris, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think about this? Because, like we talked about prior, hour and 44 minutes, based on the report that this Twitter X page said, but also, like you look at Fandango, like I said, 2 hours 10 minutes. So, what do you think we're gonna get into in this?
Okay, so to answer your question, or both of you guys' question, so Dion, I'm laughing, and Brandon was laughing too, because I almost word for word said the same thing. Almost word for word.
Yeah, he did almost say it's like the exact same thing.
Right. So, but the only other difference that I see them doing, because it's also their history, and with Mugen Train, is that I can see them. They will show the movie, and then turn around and show the movie episode by episode, and then continue it on after that.
The only problem with doing it episode by episode, I don't know if you remember this from Mugen Train and Dion, is when they did it episode by episode, it felt disjointed. And I remember watching a couple of the episodes when they broke it up episode by episode, and it felt like, well, the breaks in between each episode don't make sense.
Yeah.
I
Like, why
I'd
did
be
you
okay
cut
with
it
it.
there? Out of
Yeah,
all places.
I'd be okay with it. Do you think they would actually do that again, where they would break it up episode by episode, and then you ultimately going to be like, oh wait, you cut it here, but yet in the movie it continues here, and what do you think about that if they did that by
Yeah,
episode?
like, see, the only way I would be okay with if they cut it like that, how they did with Mugen Train, is if they released everything at once.
Just
Because
instead of doing week by week, release it.
instead of doing week by week, because all right, we've already seen it now.
Okay.
You know, we can choose that break. But if I gotta wait for an entire week to see what I've already seen, and
Yeah.
you left me in a bad position, it's gonna be upsetting. But I do see them doing that because I mean we all know that these
Yeah.
studios aren't the best consumer friendly studio.
Ding ding
We're-
ding. Yeah.
But I will say this: looking at what Fandango, if you're trying to buy tickets on Fandango, one thing I did notice, unlike when we went to go see the Swordsmith Village first episode, Chris, most of the ones you can buy tickets for right now are all English dubbed. So that's interesting. By the time we get to this point in February, everything will be English dubbed for us, and I'm gonna be interested if that means by the time we get it released in Crunchyroll, is that mean the English dub's gonna already be done, and they can just release the English dub straight up
But
alongside.
normally Crunchyroll will drop them both at the same time if they have them available.
And I'm guessing this gives them more time for Infotable to make the English dub, and they don't have to rush it out later. They can just do it all
Yeah.
as one with the movie and everything. Okay. Um, the only other question I have for both of y'all before we get to our next topic, and before I do that, we us three are trying to go see it in theaters, and we're gonna probably talk about it on the podcast. So look forward to that. That is going to be a thing because we did that for the Swordsmith Village episode. That's on on Spotify right now as well. Listen to that. Do you think, gentlemen, that it's gonna be one of those things where it's gonna surpass what Swordsmith Village did, or is it gonna be right in line what Mugen Train did? Because I think the one thing about people last time with this, and we talked about this before, a lot of people were really annoyed, which I thought was kind of weird, that the price was so high. But if you think about it, we went to go see that Studio Movie Grill, which is near me, and that was about $15. So four of us, $60. If we go again, we're gonna go probably do Cinemark, and we're gonna probably around about $30 to $40.
Yeah.
Do y'all think the hype is still there, or do you think a lot of people are gonna do the same thing like last year, where they're like, "That's too much. I'll just wait till it comes on Crunchyroll," but then they see everybody talk about it and stuff, and then people are like, "Oh, really? I have to go watch it now." Now, start off with Deon for that.
I personally think it's fine. I personally think people will still come see it. I mean, you pay $60, $70, $80 for a manga and a cup. You can pay $20 for a movie ticket. I mean, but there's also it also depends on where you go too. Because I know you said you went to Studio Movie Girl. Their tickets were higher than it was for me at Cinemark.
Correct.
So
And
it just
which is a
depends
balance
on
out. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
And I mean,
It's
Cinemark, Studio Movie Girl, they have their catches. Um, more importantly, they have pretzel bites at Studio Movie Girl. But I feel like if you will pay $20 to go see Barbie, you should be able to pay $20 to go see a full movie. This isn't just the opening episode anymore. This should be the full movie at almost 2 hours.
this
So
is the last episode plus the new movie.
Correct.
yeah,
And
so you
I
should.
think that's the thing. That's the thing with the announcement that was kind of interesting from this Twitter account or X account, basically saying that this was the new movie to the Hasha training arc will be an hour and 44 minutes. So I'm wondering, did somebody leak some information that we don't know yet? It's interesting because Demon Slayer, like Infotape on them, haven't mentioned runtime. We've only known runtime from Fandango. Outside of that, we don't know what they're really going to be showing because in the past they would have said episode 1, or in the when they did the teaser trailer last year, They did the previous episode 10 and 11, and then episode 1 of the Swordsmith Village. And like Chris had mentioned prior, is the fact that the episode prior from this prior arc is like an hour long. It's like 40 something minutes. So are we gonna have we're gonna have the last arc and then we're just gonna roll into something that's gonna almost be almost an hour and a half itself? Like, that's interesting. But Chris, I'm gonna ask you the question I asked Deon. What do you think about people think they're gonna say like it's not worth it, the price is too high? But like Deon said, you're willing to buy manga, which I just bought a bunch myself. I spent $20 on manga, about 6 books. You buy these certain things, but you're thinking a movie ticket for something like this is too high.
Well, here's the thing. Whether something is high or low is depending on what your status is, and it's like if you want to go see it, you're going to go see it, whether it's high or it's low. So and at that point, the hype is the only thing that remains. So basically, if you're buying $20 for something that you like and you're hyped, you're going to spend it easy without even thinking about it.
And here's the thing: I think that Infotable does very well, and most people forget this. When they did Mugen Train, it came out during COVID, so it didn't do as well as most people expected. But once we came out of COVID, we're not fully out of COVID. I'm not gonna say that. But once that next episode came out of COVID, the last 2 episodes in Swordsmith Village, Chris remembers this. It was the 4 of us: me, Drew, X, and myself. That theater in Studio Movie Grill was filled to the brim. It's a small theater, but it was filled to the brim. And the funny part was, you could tell it was mostly anime fans for the most part, because nobody was talking, everybody was just listening, and people were cheering. Like, it's insane to me when you think about it, because people know if they make something like that and put it out in theaters, they make people feel like they're the first people get to see something like that. Just like going to an anime convention and getting to see the first episode of something from a studio, and then you know about it before everybody else. Like, I think that's why you're seeing a lot more movies, which rolls to my next point. We got the announcement of the movie for My Hero Academia. And think about this, that teaser trailer, which I watched, looks pretty good. And the movie title is My Hero Academia, You're Next. So now I'm going to ask you gentlemen this. What do you think about the key art and the little teaser trailer we got? And do you think this is going to be between 6 and 7? Or do you think this is after 7? And I'm going to start off with Chris for that.
Okay, so I'm going to answer your questions in reverse. I think it's before 7, judging by what I saw in the trailer. Like, maybe because his costume looks a little worn out like it did in 7. So, it looks a little bit more battle worn. Mm-hmm. And plus, remember, he kind of, I think it was either after 6 or 7 or right in 7 where he boosted his legs, his gear for legs. He uses his legs more than he does his arms now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that should answer. Like, the key art was very good, and they left a lot of clues to go on. So I think they did really well. I'm looking forward to it.
One note, I forgot to mention that little teaser thing too. It is coming out in August in Japan, and guess who's making it? Studio Bones, which is going to be interesting because I think they're also doing they've been doing a couple of projects right now as well, so they have a lot on their plate. Yeah, they do. Same question to you. Do you think seeing the key art and seeing the small teaser trailer, like I asked Chris, do you think it's before 7 or after 7? And do you think this kind of ties up the loose ends of the story a little bit to keep everything rolling into season 7?
Yeah, I think it kind of, I want to say it's before 7, but it's definitely after 6.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking for the isolation he went through, to give me that tell. Because afterwards he ended up with everybody again, but before he was isolated. So with the group, yeah, I'm gonna say it's before.
Okay. And now that we got, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as far as this trailer or the movie coming out, man, I'm excited for it. It's been a consistent franchise to me, so I'm definitely excited for it to come out.
Mm-hmm. I'm on my end. I'm very excited for it. I actually agree with both of y'all. I think this is before season 7. I'll be interested how they tie that loose end stuff up, and how they tease us for season 7. Because by the time this comes out, I think season 7 will be out in America, and the movie won't be out yet, or vice versa. I forget how, because I think the season 7 could be out first, and then the movie's gonna come out to
Yeah,
America.
I think it hits like right after each other, if I'm not
Yeah, so
mistaken.
it's weird how it's gonna work out in a sense, because I think Japan will see the movie first, but then they will put context after the fact with season 7.
But I mean,
We'll,
but the
we'll
movies aren't really that canon towards the actual show. They're just only canon to to like certain aspects of the show, or
But they
the
fill a
season of
lot
the
of
show.
gaps though.
I think it's I think it's
You
filling
think
the
so?
gaps. I think it's gonna fill the gaps, but I also think it's gonna end up being a lot more canon than you think. I think they're gonna make it a lot more canon than you think, because I think they're gonna have they want to. This is probably one of the few times where it's gonna be one of those things where they want to make it canon and not leave it just
Then
a standalone thing.
then I would need to go back and watch the anime with the movies in,
Yeah,
because I
if
never
you
thought of.
watch them in between, like I ended up doing that for the last couple ones. I went back and watched the movies and then watched the season again, and they really fill those between your gaps.
Okay.
Like when
That
you get
the
to
summer
see,
vacations,
yeah,
quote unquote.
like what we don't see in the anime because it's they like going away for the trials or going away for class studies, whatever.
Yeah.
We get to see those in the movies, and it's I get what you're saying about they're not canon because the stuff that happens in the movies we don't really care about in the anime, but you see the character growth, you see the development, you see why they are the way they are in the next season.
And the
Gotcha.
only reason I would actually say they might make this a little more canon than normal, Chris, you know what I'm about to say. It's a weird one. JJK did it. They ultimately ended up making season 2 in part 1 and 2 canon to the movie, because they referenced moving
You are
things.
you are definitely right about that.
They
Tied it all
referenced
together.
movie things, even though if you didn't remember, you're like, oh wait, they did reference that. They referenced that guy. They also referenced the fact that, and it's like, oh, now they pretty much was like, you might want to go back and watch the movie now.
Yeah.
And it forced you to go back. A lot of people probably got forced back to go watch the movie, because it's like,
See,
oh,
yeah, JJK did it right because they even in the first season before Zero came out, they mentioned stuff that we just like, oh, okay, yeah, it happened. But when the movie came out, we're like, oh, that's what they're talking about. That's awesome.
correct.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
one of the biggest revelations from when JJK did it, it was like, you legitimately referenced what happened to the main character from Zero, showed him in season 2, and showed the girl that he had possessed into a demon, and she was used as a demon form, in a demon form. Funny part is, all that stuff happens in the movie, but you think about it, you're like, wait, but didn't something happen to the? But before, so season 2 is before the movie ever happens. And that's the weird part. They're like, oh, so y'all just made something that doesn't really connect together without even trying. And I think that's the thing with My Academia, like you say, with the small little class stuff we get from like character growth, that stuff connects. But I could see them doing a thing where, and it's weird to say because I can see it happening, Deco getting stronger through the movie, and he can finally control All Might, One for All power, a little bit, not a lot, not like crazy amounts,
Oh
but just
man,
enough to where he could get ready for what's happening in season 7.
yeah, his
Maybe
growth
so.
development so far has just been amazing.
But
Like,
we know the premise of what's getting ready to happen though, so it's how much are they willing to show at that point, or how?
Correct. And I think that's the weird thing, where you left off season 6. He's by himself. He's done all this hero stuff in the city, and now where they're calling the heroes from around the world. And it's kind of odd because it's like, okay, so what would you do with the movie? Would you see him grow more? Do we see just other studios doing other things? Or do you actually have the thing where you tease the American hero from season 6 at the end of this movie? She finally gets to Japan. And then that teases into season 7 of where, oh, we see her heading to Japan, but she gets to Japan in the movie, and then we see her start doing her stuff. Yeah. It's an interesting thing. I'm going to be very interested to see how they do this because, like both of y'all said, My Hero Academia is one of the most favorite shows I enjoy because it's so good for being a superhero show, but yet it's so simple to understand.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
like over the
like
top.
superhero for anime fans.
Yeah, basically. Let me know what y'all think in the comments because this is an interesting topic. I'm looking forward to the movie. Both the guys are looking forward to as well. Now let's get to our last topic. I'm gonna preface this. And I teased a little bit. Chris wasn't very happy about this because he thought it was boring. And both of them aren't very happy about this, but we'll get into it. So, Rick and Morty, the show Rick and Morty, it's a very fun show, very funny, very interesting. I don't watch a lot of it, but I know some of the stuff from it. Is trying to make an anime with their show. That teaser, there is a teaser thing that you see in the little Twitter thing that is from one of the episodes of Rick and Morty a long time ago. I forget what episode title number it is, but they made it like a anime style episode in that little part. So, Chris, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think about the fact if Rick and Morty made an anime based on the show?
Just why? It makes no sense at all. Anybody who watches Rick and Morty understands the premise of the show. He has a trans-dimensional weapon that can allow him to go anywhere. So why the point to would you make another Rick and Morty? You might as well just make a new season. Like it makes no sense. I rest my case.
So,
Yeah.
but okay, I'm gonna rebut that real quick, Chris. I do apologize, Dion. Here's my thing about this though. If you think about it, you're right. Transdimensional travel with the portal gun, all that kind of stuff. I ultimately think you could do it in one way. If you went to a world that was based in anime culture, anime world, and then you could kick the show off just through in that world. They've been to other planets before. They've been to other dimensions before. What to say that there's a dimension just an anime or Japan like dimension? What would you think about that, Chris?
It's still Rick and Morty. It's still Rick and Morty. No matter where you put him, he's going to be Rick and Morty. That's the whole premise of the show.
Okay. All right. Dion, what do you think about this? Because you heard Chris take it. I don't blame him. I don't. But do
Okay.
you watch Rick and Morty yourself? And do you kind
I
of think the
do.
same
I watch
thing,
Rick and Morty.
or do you think he's kind of off Chris off base a little bit for that?
No. He has the right to his opinion. And I just happen to feel like his opinion is right. But
Well, fair enough.
my thing is I'm confused on the premise of a Rick and Morty anime. How would you even do that? Are you just changing the art style of it? Like, are you giving it more of a story and plot? Like, I don't know. Like Rick and Morty is like Family Guy, where it's you can watch any episode randomly and not care about the backstory to it. I don't see any anime style Rick and Morty happening like that. You know, I feel like there's not enough depth to the show to do an entire series anime style. And then why are you trying to blend these genres? I'm iffy about the Harley Quinn one, and I know Chris is like that's gonna be good. I'm iffy about that.
Fair enough.
I'm iffy about the Batman anime style with that one, the Ninja Batman or whatever that was supposed to be anime style. I
Mhm.
don't see why that couldn't have been just a normal show. I feel like we're blending these lines a little bit too much to the point where are we going to begin calling regular cartoons animes or calling animes regular cartoons?
I- Isn't that a topic we said last time? Isn't
Yeah,
that a topic we brought up?
we did.
Oh,
Hold that thought. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I tend to agree with you. I do. Here's the thing about it. And actually, so I'm back on this. It was that otaku site me and Chris follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
So this is supposed to happen in late 2024. So it's already confirmed, which is the funny part. And I thought that when they teased the episode that's from, it's kind of weird because if you look at the little trailer thing for it, they kind of just do the thing where they're in the same world. The world in the background looks like anime style, and then all the dialogue is in Japanese, where they're talking, but it's in the subtitles are in English. Um, See, here's the thing. I have to kind of rebut y'all both on. I have the same problem. I have the same thought with you, Dion, on the Harley Quinn anime. Here's the thing, though. When they showed us the cheater trailer for that, Harley Quinn's in her normal clothes, her normal style, the way she looks, and you're just throwing her in isekai. That's fine to me.
because it's an isekai.
It's
That's what they do.
That's what they
That's
do.
what they do.
I think in this case, if you made it
You
an
can't.
anime, well,
Go
hold
ahead.
on. If you make it an anime, but keep the humor, the understanding of what Rick and Morty is about, I don't think there's going to be much of a problem. But if you lose the humor and what Rick and Morty is about, then yes, I think a lot of fans would go nuts because it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't fit what Rick and Morty is about in the cartoon
But
itself.
see, now we have to define what's an anime in that case.
See,
That's the problem. Ultimately, I don't think everything should be an anime. I don't everything should need an anime adaptation. Ultimately, if you ever told me, and this is where I would, if you ever told me that, and they've done it with Tekken, they've done it with Mortal Kombat, they've done it with Street Fighter in the past, but if you literally told me that they were going to make an adaptation of like The Last of Us as anime, or you told me they're going to do like Resident Evil as anime. They've done the movies. The movies aren't great, but you told me they were going to end up doing an anime based off Resident Evil. Then I have cause for pause.
Brandon.
Because
I had to. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know I sent you that picture
I
of where
know,
they had.
I know,
Come on, bro.
But
I
even
know.
Resident Evil and like Mortal Kombat, these are still based in Japanese and Chinese culture. These are still based with that centralization that could embody an anime. This you might as well make Toy Story an anime if you're gonna do Rick and Morty. Why not do
That's fair.
Toy Story or A
That's
Bug's
that's
Life or
that's
something?
fair.
You know, like it has
On the
nothing.
cool, I would
No,
watch Buzz Lightyear as an anime. That would
I
be
can
kind of
see
thorough.
Buzz and Woody becoming anime characters
But
over Rick and Morty.
I think the other thing to this argument is the thing that I think studios try to do all the time, and this is one of those few times where I'll be like, okay, they're trying to keep something popular and put it to another audience. And I'm surprised you picked something as very deep and thought out as Rick and Morty. Because Rick and Morty ain't easy to get into. I will say that. Like I said, I've watched a couple episodes. I know the premise. I know the premise of the show. Not one of the easy things to get into. But onto your point, Dion, I think, yeah, if you told me you're making Toy Story into anime, yeah, I could see it. I could technically see it. It could be done. If you're telling me you're gonna do, and this is what I wouldn't see ever happen, if you told me you're doing The Simpsons in anime, oh, absolutely not, absolutely not.
And that's
Family,
essentially what this is. Rick
Family
and
Guy,
Morty is just a modern version of The Simpsons. The Simpsons
Simpsons,
started it all.
correct.
You
And
know,
the Simpsons, has already done an anime spinoff of their own show.
Correct. They have. Actually have. That's right. Uh, I don't. I think this is going to be very interesting to see what happens later in the year.
they're
Is this going to be on
isekai
Prime?
anime in a whole they're taking one thing from one world and they're putting it into a whole nother world. They're isekai the actual genre.
Yeah.
And I'm not for it. And I love isekai animes.
I think this is where it jumps the shark for me eventually. If this doesn't do well as in Rick and Morty, I think the other thing is if they try other things. And the other big one for me, as a fan of the like genre, if you told me you took, and this is one I wouldn't hope they would do, but they could do it. You took the Final Fantasy series, so not the Final Fantasy's games, but Kingdom Hearts as the game series, and then made it an anime itself. That's one where I'm like, yeah, let's jump in the shark a little bit because you do have to find the characters, but everything else Disney wise are cartoons. That's like, wait, you're throwing two worlds together
Okay.
that don't make sense.
Right.
I just need to throw in this honorable mention because it needs to be said.
Go ahead.
It's technically a crossover, but for Scooby Doo, it was technically an isekai, and you'll never think about what show they dropped them with or they crossed them over with. And it is a show that has an anime adaptation.
Go ahead and say it. I think I know where you're going.
Supernatural.
Yep, that's the one. I thought
Oh
that was where
yes,
that's
yeah.
where
I
you were
did.
going. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, they
So
did it.
things
They did
can
it.
be done if they are done well, but just like Dion saying, with extreme caution.
Everything can technically be done. I mean,
Everything. Yeah.
it's the point of should we do it?
Okay.
You know?
So I'm gonna ask
That
y'all this
point.
question because we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but I'll bring it up again. Where is that line drawn then for what can be an anime? Because if this is jumping the shark with Rick and Morty, if we were at jumping the shark with Rick and Morty, where's that line gonna go in the next year and a half, 2 years, 3 years down the road?
It's
'Cause I
gonna
see a
disappear because they're trying to make the populace enjoy anime, so they're trying to bridge these two worlds together, and I'm sorry, it shouldn't be done. If they don't like anime, then don't try to
don't
force it down their
don't for
throat with these sellout
Knockoffs.
of shows. Like,
okay. Okay.
I mean, think about this. When they made Space Jam, right? It was the first of its kind. It was original. You have a basketball player in the cartoon world. Yay. This is cool.
Isekai.
When they made Space Jam 2 and
It
put
didn't work.
LeBron James in this
Didn't work.
world of stupidity, it was disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
You're right.
only did you change the cartoon world, but you changed the entire
Real world.
premise of this show.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing now. Oh, they took a famous high popular person, dropped it into something that everyone's forgetting about or not that many people really care about, which was Looney Tunes. They tried to cross it over so everybody can be happy, and it sucked.
But here's the thing, and I have to say this. I'll put one more in that list. Does anybody remember the fact we did Roger Rabbit? The
Oh my
movie
god.
Roger Rabbit?
Like,
Do you
Who
remember the
Framed
fact that
Roger
Roger Rabbit we had Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, you had Mickey Mouse, you had all these iconic characters for the first time ever in this world alongside a couple of human characters. And you think about the fact that movie took a lot of work to do that right because there's a lot of like red tape you have to get around to make sure it worked. And it ended up did work. Because I remember a long time ago, I watched it's a YouTube video out there of one of the best like film YouTubers I know did a review on the movie, and he mentioned the fact that when Daffy Duck and Donald Duck are on screen together in one scene of the movie, it's the same amount of time. So when they cut to one, they cut to the other. It kept the time of how each character's on screen at the same time was exactly the same. Same with when Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse are on screen together. So ultimately, we've done this crossover thing before where they tried to cross worlds.
Yeah.
and that one worked pretty well because it ended up make it fun.
Oh yeah, that
You
was the originator to
correct?
give that,
So
and then you get
technically,
this
America
new
has done its own isekais. Sorry.
Oh
yeah,
yes, they
but
have
within their own
properties.
realm of
And I
play.
agree with that. And I agree with that premise.
That's like what's the movie with the Looney Tunes and Brendan Fraser?
Yes,
They
correct.
did a couple of
Oh,
those.
back in
Th-
action.
Back in
Back in yeah,
action, Well, it was Looney Tunes something, and then Looney Tunes Back in Action was the second one,
yeah,
and they weren't as popular as things like Space Jam were because they weren't originals anymore.
no,
We've done it. Rocky Bull and Bullwinkle tried it. It did not work for them.
no.
You know,
I I think where this line is going to end up, and I'm gonna say this with all caution, but I'll say it. I think where this line's ending up in the next year or two is I think the day will happen. They've done an Iron Man anime before. I have it on DVD in this room. I've watched it. It's okay. It's not great, but
it's not the best,
it
but it's
it's not
okay.
it's not it's not bad. It's not bad. But
It's
you literally
It's
ignorable.
not better than the Wolverine
cor-
anime.
correct. But if you
Oh,
but if you give me a day where you told me you're gonna do all of the Avengers as an anime, a full on anime, not a cartoon, or you told me you're gonna do all the Justice League as a full anime, those are the two where I'm like, those are both cash grabs at that point because they're popular series. They're both well known. They're not going to work in the way they are.
I can still see those over Rick and Morty.
I could, I
At least
could,
they have
but
yeah.
stories, plots, character development. They have the anime rules.
I also think with the reason they're doing Rick and Morty, and we're gonna watch the show later. Think about Magic and Muscles.
Yeah, they may
That's
hate
the
it, but they still have a story and plot though.
yes, that's the problem. That's the thing. That's the thing. Magic and Muscles has story and plot. This is basically what you could do with Rick and Morty: make a small plot and still have the funny bits.
Yeah,
Honestly,
if
That's
you created it, you would have to recreate the show basically
correct. That would be the show.
to make it
to the
work out
point to
there.
where it's not Rick and Morty though.
It's not Rick and Morty anymore, or
Correct.
it's Rick and Morty as characters in a different show.
Correct. That's it. Yeah. I,
But because honestly, if you put Rick and Morty in an isekai, what's gonna happen? Rick's gonna build a gun and he's gonna take over and get back home like he always does.
You know what though? I would watch an anime version of Pickle Rick.
That's
Okay.
the other thing too. You have all the other characters in Rick and Morty that you can play off of too. Pickle Rick, you have Evil Morty, you have all these other characters you can play off of, and you can still make it fun. I think that's the weird thing I think they're gonna try to do. Play off of
Unless
the other
they go
characters.
like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Unless they go like husband of what is it? What is it? The house husband, the way of the house
Mm,
husband,
hmm
where each episode has its own plot, its own real story line
Okay.
to it. And every
Okay.
episode of Rick and Morty doesn't have to tie to the next one the way most animes do, because you finish that story within that episode.
In the contained episode. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I could
I
I
could.
could see that individual episodes of Rick and Morty. It would kind of still be how they're doing it now, but now they still have that trace of a storyline
Mhm.
where they try to tie everything up together. I think Rick is like hiding from his other self or something like that.
Yeah.
But as
Okay.
opposed to like Family Guy, where you have nothing tying
Correct.
each episode together. So
I, I want you to let y'all think what y'all think in the comments. This is an interesting topic because if you want to go back to a couple episodes ago, we did talk about where's that anime line. That was a interesting conversation. That was a pretty long conversation. And I think with Rick and Morty, that line's going to probably be a lot of people's bugbear. And like they both said, it is a weird thing they're trying to do. Everything shouldn't be an anime. Everything shouldn't be adapted to anime. But yeah, you're trying to make a popular thing. You're trying to make a popular thing in anime so people start watching. Here's the thing about
yeah,
anime. In the last 2 years, anime has grown because why? It's naturally built a fan base from these shows that have been interesting and different. and something that's not the same old thing. That's why animes grow, not because you try to throw something popular into something and hope it just works. Not gonna ever have that
Right.
happen. On that
Creativity
note,
sells anime.
let's get into the anime charts because this is interesting, ladies and gentlemen. And once we get in this chart, you're going to find out something very interesting. What we all thought about the show and how fans thought about it. I'll run these down real quick. The damage in my heart season 2 is at 1. Magic and Muscles season 2 jumped up 6 spots to 2. Friend Beyond Journey's End is at 3, jumped up 2 spots. Soul Level dropped a spot from 3 to 4. The Apothecary Diaries Clash is at 5, dropped a spot. Classroom the Elite went up 3 spots. The villain enjoys a carefree life and marries his worst enemy, dropped 5 spots. Delicious Dungeon went up 2 spots. And this is the interesting one. Chain Soldier dropped 3 spots, and Gushing Over Magic Girls went up 1 spot to 10. Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to start with Chris. What is the most interesting thing from this chart that you see from this?
It's the whole chart, bro. It's the whole chart. Like, honestly, bro, this whole chart is, bro, woo! Just when we thought this chart was going to stabilize, it's saying, nope. So, bro, okay, so they finally acknowledged what Deon was saying about Solo Level. The first episode was good, and it kind of, but hey, when y'all don't keep up with that same action, what y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna fall, and that's exactly what happened. Deon predicted that from a spot on.
Okay.
And then it looks like some our more mature shows are stumbling their way up the ladder. So with that being said,
yeah, continue. Sorry.
So yeah, with those shows creeping up, and I'm still surprised to see a lot of these drama shows at the top. Like honestly, our drama is not my thing, but my homegirl that's watching them says, hey, they making her in her feelings. So hey, it is what it is.
Deon, I'm gonna go to you. What is your most surprising thing from this chart? I have 2 that I'm gonna talk about, but what do you think from this chart that's most surprising?
Okay, so I'm gonna say this about Solo Leveling. I just have to like touch on this. It's an honorable mention, but Solo Leveling got more votes than it did last week, and it still dropped.
Mm-hmm.
It did,
so
actually,
that
right?
leads to my surprise, which is the number 2 spot.
Oh, we were so wrong.
Oh my god! Did they like add up all the episodes together and was like, "I'm gonna give them a total vote, maybe"? But what are we watching the same thing here? Like you guys are watching this with me, right? Are we watching the same show? The last episode should have got less votes than the first 2, and it got more. What is wrong with people? This leads me to believe that whoever is making this list, whoever is voting for this list, whoever's voting for this list are either uninformed about reality of life, they're putting these votes up somewhere where people are just clicking through them to try to get to whatever they're clicked on in the first place. This is because I'm gonna say that because I have watched 50, 60. I've watched 60% of most of these animes, and Fair and Beyond Journey's End, it's a beautiful anime. It is. It's very beautiful, but it should not be over Apothecary Diaries. It should not be over Classroom of the Elite. It should not be over Chain Soldier. Like you said, that's an acquired taste. It whatever, but like it shouldn't be as high on the list and moving up higher on the list than it is now. It's really, really quiet. It's not even as interesting as like Delicious and Dungeon, and not to mention the things that are off of this list that should be on this list, like Witch and Beast, or the wrong way to use magic, or wrong way to use healing magic. Like those things are excellent. Even Shangri-La Frontier should be in
Ooh.
here more. Like those are excellent animes that don't even get an honorable mention in this, but you get Frieren and The Dangers in My Heart has not moved at all.
For 2 seasons.
So, I mean, not to be judging or anything, but we are dealing with votes, so people are judging clearly. Whoever's voting, I'll need to ask you guys some questions. So, if you can reach out to me some type of way, if you voted on one of these Anime Corner ranking charts, we need to have a conversation.
Reach out to Deon at 999-2929.
Okay, let's get into this because I have to agree with both y'all. The biggest mover out of this was Magic and Muscles. But here's the thing I said from last week, and I said this when we talked about the episode and reviewed it. What did I say? If you just want to watch a good show, you can turn your brain off and enjoy it. And that's the big thing about Magic and Muscles. You can turn your brain off and enjoy it, and that's why people are enjoying it. I do agree with Dion. It is kind of crazy because that episode was not that great. But if you turn your brain off and enjoy it, it doesn't matter. It ultimately doesn't matter because I think that's why
I
a
just
lot of
don't
people
understand why it got more votes than the last few episodes where they
Because I think-
actually gave you content, even if it wasn't 100%. The last episode was literally talking.
I'm gonna get into that too.
That's all it was. That's all it was.
I don't disagree with the Fury Beyond Journey's End. Here's the thing about that though. That's also gained a fan base. A small fan base, but a fan
It is
base
a
on the
very
left.
pretty anime.
And I think that's why it's staying in the top 3. I do agree with Soul Level dropping one spot. Even though I got more votes this week than compared to last week, it's gonna stay in that weird top 4, maybe 3 at times. It's not gonna get to
I
the top
think it
2
only
very often.
dropped because Magic and Muscle moved up.
Correct.
Had it not moved up, it would have still been 3.
3. I think Classroom Elite should be higher. I agree with Dion and Chris both on that. I ultimately also think I haven't seen Delicious Dungeon, but I know about Delicious Dungeon from y'all talking about it. That should probably be higher. And ultimately, I'm gonna hate to say this, and I don't think I should. Chain Shoulder and Gushing Over Magic Girl should be higher. And yes, it is acquired taste. I get that. Episode 4, both those shows were kind of weird and off their rocker at points, but it works for what they're trying to do with both those shows. It has a reason to exist. And here's the other big thing about this. I also agree Shangri-La should be up there. I'm gonna still champion this show for the rest of the season. If I have to keep saying it, Metallic Rogue should be up there.
Yeah, definitely.
The Wolf and the Beast. I could even go any further, and I agree with both of you on this. The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic should be up there.
God, yes.
Yes.
That should be way above everything on this list.
That should be at least be like number 5. At least number 5.
I would push it in the top 3.
But here's the thing I'm gonna get at with this, and it's gonna something me and Chris kind of talked about earlier this week or before I left my trip, and it's something I think we kind of talked about yesterday a little bit too. This is the first charts for the Anime Corner and the first season in a while where it wasn't dominated by what normally isekai or shonen. This is the first time this
action anime either.
This is the first season where we have a balance of good isekai, really decent shonen, and a decent amount of drama. And the funny part is, it all works for the most part. That's the other big thing. This anime season is about storytelling. And even though last episode of Matching Muscles was a bunch of talking, what did it end up doing? Told a story. And the story did progress. 10
seconds. Sorry. I really needed that last episode.
You're fine. You're fine. You're good. You're good. You're good. But I think that's the point. As long as you're telling people a good story, building characters, building the world, a lot of the other stuff doesn't really matter. And that's the thing with this season. I've noticed me and Chris watched um Metallic Rogue, and the one thing I like about Metallic Rogue, it feels like if it was Cyberpunk was just kind of not all neon lights and the hardship of Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
But Chris brought up a good point about Metallic Rogue. He says it's like Ghost and Shell. But the
it
funny thing
is.
about it, it's a very muted, and it's funny. Chris mentioned this too. It's like a espionage show. It's a spy thriller in the sense that you have a handler with a Naomi, and you have Rogue herself as this fighter. But how they navigate this world, how they do things, how why Rogue can't be herself, all this kind of stuff is so different than what they have to what they're dealing with. And I think the big thing we're going to get at with this rest of the season, I won't be shocked. I will not be shocked that we see Magic and Muscles hit the top three again. You know why? Because I think with Magic and Muscles, this episode we're about to watch, by the way, Get Up Magic and Muscles episode 16, is going to be one of the things where they told a lot of story and there was very little action. But what did they also do to bring back a lot of the people? The humor. There's a lot of humor in this episode. There's more humor in this episode than was the prior episode. And humor hits. I'm
Oh my
I'm
god.
gonna I'm
Can I
gonna run.
ask you this?
Go ahead.
Do you think, honestly, truthfully, because you just advocated for it, do you think a show like The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic is worse than Magic and Muscles?
No, but a different
Or should I
taste.
say, do you think that Magic and Muscles is that much better of an anime than The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic?
No, I think it's different taste for different people. And the reason why I say that way is because look at the fact that they did basically for Magic and Muscles the Harry Potter parody. Most people have seen Harry Potter, probably not all the way through, but they understand
Yeah.
the premise.
Okay.
With the wrong way they use healing magic, the only really comparison you probably could get for it, and it's one that I don't do, but I haven't played in a while. I've played. I'm playing through the game right now. Baldur's Gate is the best way to explain it.
Yeah.
But if you don't know Dungeons and Dragons that well, you probably don't understand the thing they're doing.
So see, based off what you just said, the Rick and Morty anime would do great.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Why?
Like you said, most people have seen Harry Potter, so they can gravitate towards Magic and Muscles. If they've seen D&D, they can gravitate towards Baldur's Gate. So many people have seen Rick and Morty, so they'll be able to gravitate towards that anime versus something like The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, which I think is a great anime. They have story, they have comedy, they have, a great plot, they have, of course it's an isekai, but they once you get into it, you almost forget it's an isekai. They do it well, but that isn't on this list. And Magic and Muscles is number 3. And Solo Leveling is number 4. And it's only number 4 because Magic and Muscles is number 3.
But let me throw
Or number
something
2.
back.
I'm sorry. I
Let
misspoke. It's number 2.
let me throw something back at you. Look at Solo
Yeah.
Leveling. Look at Shangri La. And Chris is gonna. We're just mentioning this when we watched both those back to back there yesterday.
Hmm.
What are they both doing? They're both video game type anime. In the sense they're using video game logic. One's a straight up video game. The other's using video
Well,
game logic to use the power system.
Solo
Funny
Leveling is doing it the isekai way.
Isekai way using video game. Yeah.
They're using that I'm in a new world, give me this whole new system or whatever I'm not used to, and able to do it without it being an isekai, which is an interesting thing. Where Shangri-La, he's actually playing a video game, so it's also like acceptable, and
But
they're different in their own rights. But yeah, you're right. They have that video game thing.
that's the
The
other part.
idea that I was showing from that Brandon was that I could watch Shangri-La and know what Solo Leveling is going to do. It's been like that for the past 2 episodes.
But here's the other point of that too, and I think that's the bigger thing I'm going to get at. Everybody has at least played an RPG at least once.
Yeah.
Most people played an RPG, so with Shangri-La, you understand that system. With Soul 11 introducing the system, his power system now, the new one, what does it look like? An RPG leveling type, level type system. Everybody understands that.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about this season because they're doing simple concepts that get understanding very well. I'm gonna champion another show, by the way, and it's one I love because Chris got me into it. Crossing the Elite should be higher on this list because you know why? That storytelling across the Elite is off the chain.
Yeah, it is.
But
It
at the
is
same
very
time, you need the high level of thinking to understand what's going on. And that's the scary thing because it's not easy to get into if you don't understand the plot and everything moving around in the show. You'll get lost quickly. And I think that's the big thing about this is that with this season, there's something for everybody, something that you can turn the brain off to, something that you can have just more fun and interesting to seeing fights, something that's just kind of the video game world and you can learn about it throughout the episode, something that just has a straight up like romance drama angle, and that's worked for people.
You got a little bit of food. I'm not gonna say that word on your podcast.
yeah, I know where you're going.
Dungeon, you know.
Yeah, I know where you're going. But
I can agree with you on there.
But if you look at the rest of the tips, so I'm gonna go from 11 to 15. Honkan Girls are the super adorable 11. Wrong and Crimson is 12. A Sign of Affection is 13. Villain 1199 must be hidden boss, but not the demon lord is 14. The wrong way to use healing magic is 15. Shaker Law is 16. Undead Unlucky is 17. And Banished from the Heroes Party and Decide to live a quiet life in the countryside scene 2 is 19. Basically, Witch and the Beast is 21. My Incidental Lily is 22. And from that point on, you really don't have everything else is kind of up in the air. So basically, the top 15, ultimately, if Gushing Over Magic Girls and Chains of Lord didn't do well, you see Shangri-La and Wrongly Using Magic to be in the top 10. If Magic and Muscles didn't jump as high as it did, that would have been like.
And that's where I'm confused at. That's my train of thought because I disagree that this episode particularly should be so high that all these other great things aren't on this top 10 list. And that's why catch me outside, whoever's voting on this list.
But I'll be interested though.
Deon at thesehands.com.
I will say this is fan voted and it's always been fan voted for the most part. It's ultimately to me what people are feeling at the time. And I think that's the big thing. We saw that.
I'm sad then. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. But if this list is based off of what people are feeling at the time, we have some very sad people watching anime.
I mean, you're probably not wrong, but
I'm here for you guys, man. Wow, yeah, and you're right though.
But I think the thing
gravitate towards.
I think the thing is, if you look at where the charts are sitting, a lot of dramas in the top 10. A lot of dramas in the top 10, and like Chris said, he's not a drama person. He don't like drama. I can watch it here and there, for the most part, give or take, but it takes a bit. It takes a second. That's why I think with this list, it's a mix of drama, fight, shonen, a little bit of isekai, and then everything else is kind of just there. I think
so.
I think
that's gonna be it. That's all I'm saying. Do you think that's gonna be it? Really?
For now. I think this will change once we get to week 4 or 5. I can see where it changes very easily in 2 places. I think Solo Level will get stronger as we get through the next couple episodes. But I also could see something like Gushing Over the Magic Girls have a couple cool episodes. I can see them like Shane Toller having a couple cool episodes, but also I can see something like The Wrong Way to Healing Magic have a banger episode where he does something kind of amazing, and that ends up jumping that list.
I don't see it jumping
because it happened last year a bunch where we had things jump the top 10 that shouldn't have, but because it had one or two good episodes, people gravitate to it. Word of mouth's everything, and word of mouth can still be everything.
I noticed, Brandon?
Go ahead.
I noticed that some of this list, not this particular one, but there's another one I was looking at on anime news or something.com. And they were saying something about these votes get based off the week before versus the
correct
week of.
Yeah.
So
it's
the episode that I've seen of Magic and Muscle that I didn't like, people aren't basing that vote off of that one because they watched the one before and they were so happy for it. So now they're voting off that. But I don't know. That could be the case. It couldn't be the case, or it may not be the case. But
I only laughed because I had brought up a whole nother list to Brandon, and it was a completely different. And upon research, that poll is based on viewers.
Oh,
but see, I think the hard thing about that, unlike normal TV, you'll never get a full representation of viewership in one region, in one area, and that's the thing. Like, it's hard to do either or. You have to combine the two. I wish there was a way you could combine the two and to kind of give us an average. But even then, like, that's even kind of because like the viewership can be higher for one show, but the average what people actually voted for, it's less.
Yeah, especially if people are watching at different times, different days. Like
correct.
We wait a week to watch, certain episodes because we're watching other stuff when it comes out. So I can see that being gauged way differently.
I'm gonna say this. That's why I love both these guys. Because we're having a conversation about something that's very not really thought out, but yet we're having a deep conversation about it because it's interesting and weird. It doesn't feel like the season has a lot to be desired, but yet Deon brought a point when we first started the charts for the season. He thought a lot of these shows were pretty mid, and you thought this season was going to be kind of mid anyway, for the most part. It probably is going to end up ending up that way, where this season's probably kind of mid, and everybody's looking ahead to spring of 2024. Does that shock me? No. But it's also like you can have a quiet season and have a really hype season. And a really hype season is going to take over a lot of that stuff. Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens. But I will say this right now, I think by week 4 and 5, if it's the previous episode, the episode we just watched from last week, I think that will go lower. I also think if Soul Level's in the same place, it will stay where it is, and a lot of things else will move around. But that's gonna be the way.
I see Solo Leveling like riding that tier 3, 4, 5 for the entire season.
Leveling,
just because everything else is going to be jumping around so much. I feel like it's going to be the consistent one.
So now let's get into Magic and Muscles episode 16. I hope you have the episode up. This episode comes back to form, I'll say, for the most part. There's only one kind of quirk I have with this episode. It's very interesting. But I will, in a minute, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, let's go.
It still hits so hard.
It just I forgot this episode just picks up with the song. It doesn't have anything prior to the song, so I forgot.
Bro, somebody had put this theme song in front of the new One Piece, and I was kind of digging it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But Chris, do you see what I'm saying with the song? It's the same beat throughout. There's no other up and down change and beat. They don't change the beat at any point, unlike other shows have changed the beat or have a down to up to like,
I mean, it's uh, it's it's the same beat, but they change time signatures.
correct. They do change time features at a couple of times, yeah.
I've caught myself singing that part like just randomly throughout the day.
I would have. I've heard the full song. I mean, I like it. I do enjoy it. It's just like it's interesting because it fits this. It has to, that's what
Yeah.
they made it for.
Like I really want to go to the gym on that.
That'd be awesome.
That's still my JJK theme, that gym theme.
I do like the world. You know what this reminds me of? When they did Sword and Stone for Harry Potter, where they
The
have them put
Goblet
their
of
name
Fire.
Goblet of Fire. There we go. Thank you. Where they put their name in the Goblet of Fire.
I was just thinking that too.
I mean, we do know that this is Harry Potter and One Punch Man's
Like,
illegitimate
like
child.
you just have all these
Yeah.
people become. Why did you didn't mention that from the beginning? They're immune to magic. Like you should have mentioned. Yeah, there he goes.
Magic contest where everybody's immune to magic. How does that work?
Yeah.
But it only works for one person.
Yeah, this was already set up for Mash to win.
You haven't seen this, right, Deon?
No, I have not. I have not watched this episode.
Oh Jesus!
But if you have to spill spoilers, I am okay.
No, it's just better to watch him at this point.
Understood.
They're like, huh? They're like, huh? Wait, what? How did he punch that thing?
When the entire stadium is like, what the heck?
You know something wrong. You know something's actually wrong. Hey, wait. You say he's nuts? Have you seen other people in this school? Like, what is this? You're saying Max is too nice. Interesting. Yep.
Is that 21 Savage in the background?
I swear, bro.
That's what it sounds like. Oh,
Oh, they found one. Huh?
oh man, this is kind of
This is the new Bugs Bunny.
yep.
Hmm.
By the way, how do they know what breakdancing is? By the way, like that doesn't make sense to
Right.
me. But
Where do you get breakdancing from in this world?
her mouth's just like, what's she watching? And the other girl's like, wait, I can't see this, can't watch this anymore.
She's just some love over there.
No, Dari's living weapon. Have you seen what this man can do?
He doesn't need a key.
This man is bleeding from all places in his body, from his like head, and he's trying to help that dude. Why?
They get beat up.
Why don't you just stab him in the eye? What was that whole? Yeah. And mash.
I feel like this is the same person who did the background of Static Shock.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
Superhero static shot.
This reveal was kind of amazing. I like the fact they did this way.
This is my favorite scene in the whole episode.
Could this be a declarance of war? Absolutely. What do you expect?
I don't need weapons. How many top students do they have?
Now, just listen, just listen. Oh, it gets better.
Mm.
There it
Man,
is. There it is. Oh,
this
and
next part
then
is
that goes.
even colder.
About
Like, come on, bro. You like, and then gonna flip the bird. You know, that's how they had it blocked out this season, Brandon.
They had to block that out. You can't show that.
But no, but they showed it last season.
They did show it last season, actually. That's right.
Uh-huh.
mm.
Nope.
Wow.
23 seconds.
Wow.
All right. And there's a small problem. Yep.
Wow.
There we go for episode 16 of Magic and Muscles. Let's get into this, ladies and gentlemen. So this episode starts off kind of weird-ish because we basically get the understanding of what from previous episode what this next challenge is going to be. This challenge is going to be you're trying to get this key out of this balloon, and these dead servants are trying to attack you. You can't really do much. You can't even run away from them. You have to still get the key in some way, shape, or form. there's only, we don't know at the time there's only 9 keys, but there's only so many keys to get to the next round. There's 11 students total for this. So then we see them all get into the arena. We see the guy with the black hair and the blonde streak kind of was a coward and kind of scared. Everybody else is kind of like, okay, we know what we need to do. So some people are kind of like ready for it, some people aren't. Then we get the weirdest thing ever because Mash gets gets in there, takes us on his first fight, and he punches one of the dead servants right in the stomach. And everybody's like, huh? How'd you punch the dead servant just right in the stomach? As he does that, the girl mentions that's doing all the like commentary stuff, talking about each stage. She says the dead servant can't be killed. It basically is recovers health. At the beginning of the episode as well, we see the fact that somebody tries to use magic on the dead servant. The dead servant also immune to magic. So now we see the one guy who tried to use magic on it doesn't work. He kind of gets chopped up by the thing and he gets back into the arena. Then Mash figures out he can't, after he tries to punch it, he has to run away. And the girl mentions about the not being able to do much damage because they're already dead. They're not living things. So I'm gonna stop it right there, gentlemen. Deon, what do you think about this first little section about learning about the game and learning about what's going on?
I'm just glad they brought back some comedy elements of it.
Yeah, this is the first
Man,
time this was come.
it's been a long time coming. When he punched the monster in the stomach, you just immediately see the silence go from the entire stadium. And that's when I knew, okay, this is gonna be a decent episode.
And you brought it up too. You brought it up, Deon. I remember you brought it up when the whole crowd gasped. Like, he literally just did that. And it partially worked. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, like had they not been immortal, this super strong monster already, like everyone's scared of, and he just goes, okay, let me. Like everyone's first initial reaction is to run, and Master's like, "No, let's fight.
Let's fight."
That just shows his character. I love that. It brings back around who Mash truly is, like within the first 2 minutes of the episode. So I absolutely love that for this.
Chris, what do you think about this first little section up to the point where he tries to punch the monster, doesn't really do anything because the like girl goes, "Oh, he's immune. He heals really fast, so Mash just has to run."
Still, bro, it was the funniest part. Well, not the funniest part. It was one of the like, okay, everybody should have saw this coming. Like honestly, but yet here you go, surprising everybody. Like everybody looking like, bro, you really just KO'd this thing in one hit, bro. Like honestly, bro, that little monster thing, like they say it can heal itself instantly, but you think it will remember that pain and be like, I don't think I want to do that again.
Yeah. So then,
yeah.
So then we see this second half where Mash runs. He ends up running to try to find the balloon. Doesn't find anything, but he ends up in this like tall grass, and he's kind of behind one of the beasts looking for him. Then you hear a guy say "small" or "shrink," basically, and he shrinks down to, shrinks Mash to a small size. He says, "Over here." We don't learn about a lot about this character, but we learn that he wants to work together with Mash. Mash is kind of like, why? And they do the way like the sound wave thing where he's like thinking through. He's like, okay, we can work together to get the key. And he kind of is confused, but he kind of gets, why is he doing this? What's the purpose for it? But then they work together. They figure out that they need to get to the key somehow. So as they're trying to figure this out, we see the redheaded guy going after his key. We see a couple other students going after theirs. And this is where the next funny thing happens, where you see Mash, this other dude, literally whispering and tiptoeing away from this beast. By the way, the beast turns around at one point and looks at them straight in the face. And then Mash literally stuffs his toe in a rock, leans over, and they're about to say something, but he's got like, don't say anything, don't say anything, don't say anything. And then he says, we're safe, we're safe, we're safe. And then it's like all these hand motions and things. I'm like, okay, fair enough. And then they finally get to the balloon. Then Mash said, oh, look over there. There's a balloon. Then they find it. As they're finding the balloon, Mash does the one thing he thought about. He had to blow the balloon, so he used the thing to blow the balloon. He presses on the balloon, and literally, as he presses on the balloon, the monster comes after them. And they do this 2 more times before they start trying to figure out what they need to actually do. And then that's where I'm gonna end it. So, what do y'all think about this part? And I'll start off with Chris for this. What do you think about this part where we see Mash meet this guy? We don't know much about the guy outside. He can make things small, and he can change the size of things. But then they work together to try to get to the balloon. But they're also trying to figure out how to not alert the dead servants.
Now, the little part where he meets the upperclassmen is purely story. It's purely just a pretty plot, just to kind of pull along the story. However, these attempts on the balloon with Mash and the other guy and his upperclassmen, bro, that was pure Looney Tunes. Hey, let's try this. And nah, that ain't work. No, we're gonna try this. And nah, that ain't work. Yeah, that was all Looney Tunes.
Yeah. Yeah. Dion, what do you think about this little section where we meet the upperclassmen? Like Chris said, it's basically story stuff, and then we kind of tried it a couple times to figure out the balloon thing.
Um, again, showing Mash's true character. Him meeting this guy in the woods, and his first thought is, "All right, cool, let's be friends." Like, you know, barely any skeptical. Like, he's just like, all right, you did just help me. Cool, let's do this. Like, you hadn't learned from the first season that not everybody is trustworthy. But I digress. We get on to the to the interesting part.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he? Why
So
was I thinking he was going to try to snatch the balloon first?
this
That's
is
what I
where
was thinking. Like,
this episode gets kind of interesting because then they figure out what they do is to break off. They break off the little horn thing, but then they're like, "How are we gonna get air through it?" So then I think the guy thinks about Mass thinks about to make the balloon bigger. Well, it won't pop it. So the guy makes the balloon bigger, and you hear somebody in the crowd go, "Wait, that won't pop that balloon. You're making it bigger to make it hard for yourself." Then you see the crowd watching the balloon getting the bigger, and then the girl that likes Mash goes, like, okay, she says Mash, and then they kind of look what's happening. Then Mash literally starts tiptoeing towards the balloon with the workout shorts and the black bodysuit. Okay, fair enough. Then crowd's kind of like, what is he doing? And he puts his hands in the ground and starts. And then they see him start. He doesn't start spinning yet. But he's about to start the spin. And they're like, what? And they're thinking he's breakdancing. And everybody says it. He's breakdancing. He starts breakdancing, puts air through the balloon, pops it. And everybody's kind of aghast and like, what's going on? Then you see they show these 4 kids and they're all like tearing up. And they're like, and then one of the guy the closest to the screen goes, closest to us on the screen goes, a living weapon. And the guy next to him goes, wait, he's a living weapon. No, darn,
That's not fair.
the man's a living weapon. That's what we've seen that already.
It's like that's not fair.
So then once we get to that point, the really next thing we see is it just having you'll see a couple other people get keys, and then before we get to really anything big, you see the red-haired guy get his key, and he finds the black guy with the blonde-haired streak, and then he asks, "Did you get your key yet?" He says no, and then the red guy is bleeding a gusher in his head. So, and even the black-haired guy with the streak goes, "Oh yeah, you're bleeding," and he's like, "I'm fine, I'm fine." And I'm going to end it right there. So, Dion, what do you think about this next segment? From the fact we see Mash breakdancing to the point where we see the red-haired guy bleeding a gusher trying to help the black-haired with the blonde streak.
honestly, this was a part where I had to turn my brain off and just enjoy what was happening. Because for me, my logic dictates breakdancing shouldn't exist in this world. And even if it does, where does this guy who's been reclused in the woods with his father and learn how to do such a thing? So that's where I'm like, okay, I guess this is gonna be the plot point, but it's weak for me because you guys know when we first seen this, we were like trying to figure out how he was going to break this balloon that needed magic to break. And I
Mhm.
feel like they could have been a little bit more story creative than this particular, like breakdancing to create a wing. He could have just used his arms and spun them in a circle or something like he did with his feet on flying the broom. But I digress. I had to turn my brain off and just enjoy what was happening because it was funny. It did make for a good scene, but yeah.
Do you agree the same way, Chris? It's kind of just like, yeah, it shouldn't breakdance should be
For the
part of
most
this
part,
world.
for the most
Breakdance,
part, yeah, because it was just like I said, it's Looney Tunes. Like it's like really. This is what y'all chose to do. All right, Looney Tunes. Cause I could, cause that I feel like that's something like Bugs Bunny would have done. Like honestly,
Yeah. I
he
wouldn't
would
have
he
been
probably
surprised if he pulled out like a mallet out of nowhere and just smashed the
it,
balloon with it or
you
something.
see what I'm saying?
no.
Like this dude just starts breakdancing out of nowhere. Like, hey, okay, he can breakdance. Okay, it's an anime. Yeah, okay. See,
And this is
this is
how he's
one of
gonna
those
pop this
animes. This is
magical
definitely
balloon.
doable. See, if it wasn't for the other aspects of this show, I would call this a cartoon.
Yeah, you can see it. I can see it. I can see it. So then we're gonna get to the back half of this, and I'm I'm gonna split this up in two parts because the back this next part is all a lot of talking. Basically, the guy that the classman that was helping Mash, they have a talk, and Mash goes, "Here, you can take the key." And the guy goes, "Why?" Like, because you figured it out. Mash goes, "You figured it out. I was just there. You deserve it." And the guy goes, "Wait, you're really too nice, aren't you?" I'm like, "You're a good person." Mash goes, "I'm not really a good person, but okay." But and then you see that he says that I learned a lot about you from uh Ren Reina, which is as Max calls him, Mr. Bunny Guy, or the brother of the black haired, blonde haired guy, dude.
Yeah.
The guy that's the sword cane. And then they keep kind of talking, but he's like, you know what? Take the key. The exit's over there. And as it's happening, we see other people breaking their keys. So we see the guy with the sister complex break his, get his key. A couple other people got theirs. And then Mash runs past him and he goes, "Thank you very much. I appreciate it." And then as that's happening, the upperclassman stays there. And he goes, "I feel something's off." And something that's off is this guy walks up to him. We don't see the guy yet, and just kind of pokes him in the eye and makes him bleed. And this guy is a very powerful or wizard, basically, and he's one of the like elites. Best, and the upperclassman's like, "You want to go? Bring it. Let's go." And they don't have a fight, but we'll get back to that in a second. So we see all the other people getting keys coming to the arena. We see Mash come to the arena, and you see the red-haired guy and the black guy with the blonde hair with the blonde streak kind of meet him, and the Mash goes, "You're bleeding. Are you okay?" And he's like, "I went to go help Finn get his key, and I got mine. And like, are you seriously okay?" And he just falls out. Then you see the sister complex dude and Mash talk. They kind of just talk about the fact that something felt off about the guy that helped me. I don't know why. And the sister complex dude's like, "Are you sure everything's okay?" He's like, "No, it's just I'm just thinking." Then we get this reveal. This reveal was kind of amazing. The fact we see the guy that was helping out Mash literally come through the door. He comes through the door, but then you see him bloodied and beaten. He falls. The girl goes, "Oh wait, here's the nice person," and then like, "Nope, here's the actual nice person." This dude, and that dude walks through the door, steps on the guy's head that he beat up, grabs the water, and the girl goes, "Here's your water and here's your towel." He grabs the water, literally walks over to Mash, and this is the part I love because then you get Mash just kind of being oblivious because the guy says, "I don't like weak people. I don't." weak people should be weeded out. Basically saying the weak is no match for me. And then Mash goes, "You haven't met me, one of the strongest people here. I'm one of the strongest people here." But then, funnily, before he says that, the guy just throws the water at him. And then they do a count, throws the water, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's not good." And then Mash, what does he do? Takes out a little shaker, puts the water in there, puts some powder, shakes it up, makes a protein drink. And they're like, "Protein drink? What the?" And then Mash literally goes, "Oh, it's my 3 o'clock protein drink. I forgot to take it, but it's good for my muscles and everything." And well, by the way, what were we talking about? And goes, "Oh, you're not stronger than me, but yet you don't know what strength is." And then as he explains the definition of strength, he gets confused and literally almost breaks. And then the last thing we see of this episode before we go into the next fight, the next challenge, the last thing we see with them two is like, she's like, "Do not fight. Save that for the exam." And then we see the next trial being promoted, which is a team thing. 3 teams, a heart team, a star team, and I think was the other one like a ruby looking team, red, yellow, blue. And each of them get crystals. If you break your crystal, you still are eligible until everybody loses their crystal. Once all the team lose their crystals, it's done. The crystals come down, so it's the red-haired guy, the black-haired guy with the blonde streak, and Mash on the team. Literally, the black-haired guy gets his crystal, talks about what needs to be done, and as he's talking, Mash crystal breaks. Mash said it slipped. Then 2 seconds later, you hear Dot's crystal broke, and he's like, "Oh no, it's only 1 crystal left." And they're like, "Oh, we can protect you. No worries, we can protect you." Well, that makes sense. They can protect me. I don't have to worry about a thing. Then they get transported to the new world, and they go, and you see the little world they're being transported to, and everybody's getting transported. And by the way, they're like, "Oh, we split all y'all up." And the black hair guy with the blonde streak goes, "Really? I'm alone. So nobody's there to protect me. Great." And then that's how the episode ends. And it's like, okay, fair enough. I'll start off with Deon for this. What do you think about this back half? From the point we get to see Mash take the key, get back to the arena, with the fight with the talk with the little elite guy, and then leading into the next trial. Is he muted?
Does it show it?
Deon, are you there?
We can't hear you, D. So while we wait
What?
for Dion to
Yeah,
get his
I'll let you go.
internet connected,
Okay.
bro, this back half, like, first off, that was my favorite scene,
Check.
bro. There we go.
You guys can hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I didn't do anything different.
Did you
but
hear
go
my
ahead, Chris.
question?
You go ahead and finish.
go ahead.
And then
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll come back in.
So my favorite scene, bro, was this whole scene with Mash confronting this Orca dude. Like, bruh, this dude, first of all, you just thrashed one of the people who just hit me. So he was technically one of my friends. Problem number 1. So, and then what you doing to him now, you are going overboard too. And then you dare call anybody here a weakling. And then you had the audacity to attempt to throw water in my face. But you know what? I took that ish like a G and made my daily protein shake because that's what I do. Because that's Smash. That's in character for him. And then I'ma stun everybody because that don't phase me. And then I'ma step up and say, you know what? While you calling everybody weaklings, bro, I ain't seen nobody here stronger than me. So you need to sit your bro. I was like, yes.
That part.
The rest of the episode, I didn't even care about. That was it for me.
I'm
That
gonna come
was
back to
it.
that. I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna let Dion go, and I'll explain why I think That's one part about this I did so I think hits. Dion, go ahead and explain from the part we see with the kid giving the key to Nash to the end. What do you think about that section?
That part to me was completely pointless outside of showing how strong the Orca kid is, I guess. But we could have done that with him walking through the gates. It would have that particular scene would have been more prevalent had he walked through the gates with this guy we thought was cool without us seeing him beat him up in the first place. Like, just leave all of that out. We all right. I think it's just building on to plot that we don't know. But one thing I do remember seeing is how he was talking about Rain. He's like, "Yo, Rain set me up." So I feel like it's leading us into something more where Rain is like looking out for Mash throughout this trial. So I'm interested in seeing what happens in the future with this trial. But nevertheless, Finn shouldn't get a key. I didn't think Finn should have deserved the key. He sat around crying the entire time, but that's just personal taste.
Yeah, fair enough.
We're not bringing all our friends with us to Disney World if they can't buy a ticket.
Hello.
So we go past that. Then it's Orca Ordeal. I'm saying the Orca Ordeal because I forget the guy's name, but this was the cream of the crop funny to me because you see Mash being Mash, so oblivious to other people's threats and just like, I don't care, bro, because I'm strong. like, and like you said, Chris, that line, you're calling everybody
Yes.
weak, but there's no one here that's stronger than me. That man, what? You just told this to the guy that just basically slaughtered the senior. He's your senior. He just slaughtered your senior. You like, whatever, bro. Let's see what them hands do. That's like this whole episode is just reshaping the Mash we lost in the first 4
Yes.
episodes. It's like
Yes.
he making who he is, who he was in the first season. Like, okay, now I see Mash again. I haven't seen
Hmm.
them this entire show so far. It is 3 episodes. Was it been 3 episodes, 4 episodes? I haven't seen Mash. Now I see Mash, and I'm excited again.
Okay.
Like that's yeah.
So I have to agree with both of y'all on this. I do agree that Mash is becoming more like himself. I also have to agree with this. I also kind of thought the fact that you did show the friend that cried and got a key from helping from the red dude. I agree with Dion. That's kind of weird because he's continuing the story, but he's one of Mash's friends, so I get why he's continuing. That makes sense. But at the same time, it feels like he's going to be dragged along in the story and not really have a reason to be there outside of Mash's friend. The other thing that really kind of hit for home for me, and it's weird, the comedy worked, but also I think the storytelling worked too. Because if he didn't have the Orca beat up his senior, then the confrontation when they're talking back in the arena doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So seeing that all happen, and I'm gonna evoke something, and I don't usually evoke it because I'm one of the fans of this. But basically, what just happened? You saw 2 people in a wrestling ring, standing across from each other, cutting a promo, and basically, Mash said, you say you're strong, but yet Mash goes, you say, he tells the worker, you say you're strong, but you ain't stronger than me. Big thing,
Ooh,
you haven't seen what
here
I
we
have done,
go.
what I have done so far.
Mm-hmm. The
Literally to a
Rock is Austin.
where literally to a point where you throw water
Bro,
in the
those
man's
were
face.
straight fighting words. Straight fighting words.
You throw water in the man's face. The man's not phased. She just makes a protein shake, drinks it, and done with it. It's just
Like that was the first insult.
what? But the thing is, I think the other part of the episode, I don't mind them explaining the next challenge, but ultimately, to me, what you should have done after Mash had said that line, that's where the episode should have stopped.
That's ended. Yes.
That's where the episode should have
See?
stopped. and then you can explain the next challenge, next episode, because that confrontation is what you wanted.
It killed the
You
episode.
gave him
It did.
correct.
It did.
It killed the
Correct.
like it made the episode worse than it could have been. It killed the episode.
But I know you don't. I know with this show they don't want to end on something serious, so they give you humor, and I get why the humor is in the back half at the ending where they both lost the crystals, the whole new challenge, all that kind of stuff. So you gave us the humor and you gave us the how they're gonna get out of the situation. But ultimately, to me, in the episode there where they're commentating, Matt says that line, "We're done," and nothing else happens.
That almost sounds like a cop out.
Next episode off, right there with the creating of the next
Next
trial
scene.
or test or whatever.
Correct.
And you got a good show because now we can start off the next episode with comedy and you're
Correct.
still in the goal. This is oh man, whoever like
The director. The director.
Yeah, the director of this man, call me, bro.
Oh, Dion at DC is at 999-29.
At this point, Deon's gonna get his phone bought up for this. So,
Man.
okay, this is a night so far. But ultimately, the other thing too,
you get number 2. It's gonna be number 2 next week. Watch.
the only thing is that I don't think really also didn't work. I think the long talk between the senior and MASH only works partially. The first part of it, giving us Reina, he noted about Reina, cool, that makes sense. Why else would he know MASH? Reina knew about him. So, like your point, Deon, Reina's probably protecting MASH in some way. We don't know how yet. Yeah, that's a plot point. The rest of the point up until after that, where then he's like, he tells MASH you're a good person, but MASH like, not really. That whole scene is supposed to be comedy, but it doesn't feel like comedy. It feels like a serious talk, but it feels kind of disjointed when MASH gets the keys and just goes. But then he says thank you. And he says thank you anyway. All right, you said thank you. Why am I sticking around? Okay, I'm gonna ask you all this, and I'll start off with Chris for this. Chris, what would you give Magic and Muscles episode 16 for a rating?
Now I'm gonna give it this specific rating because, bro, this was a funny episode. We saw Mash back and bring back his muscles. We saw Mash be Mash, and bro, we saw probably one of the greatest lines we'll probably hear all season. If you ask me, at least probably. So, I mean, it did have a few slow moments and some things that, yeah, like Dion said, that don't make no sense. But and I personally just toss them off as Looney Tune moments because at the end of the, because I mean, you got to have some humor somewhere, just as long as they don't overdo it. Therefore, I'm going to give this episode a 8.4.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Explain why. All right. Dion, go ahead. What would you rate Magic and Muscles episode 16?
I have 2 ratings, if that's okay. If that's allowed.
That's fine. Go ahead. Explain both.
My first rating as an anime in total, I give it like a 6.
Okay.
5 or 6. For me, when I'm watching anime, I look for a few things: story, attention to detail, and creativity. Right? However you come across creativity, humor, or whatever. And this was just so out there. I had to turn my brain off a lot to make it through the episode. And don't get me wrong, there were good scenes, but I shouldn't have to be a couch potato to enjoy your scenes, right? Or what is it called? A vegetable. I shouldn't have to be a vegetable to enjoy your scene. I shouldn't be brain dead. But as a MASH episode, second season episode,
okay,
I give it an 8.
Okay, all right.
As a MASH second season episode, I give it an 8.
I can see both sides of that coin, and I can see where Chris is coming from. I can see where you're coming from, Dion. Ooh, so this is gonna be tough. Ultimately, for me, I actually would have to give this like a 9.5.
Okay, all right.
Bugbears aside, I do agree with some of Dion's bugbears. I agree, and I also agree with Chris's point about this. It brings Mash back to Mash. I also have a couple story. They came with a couple story things. Some story things were necessary. Some things were longer. I think the only downside for me is the ending. That's the 0.5. If they didn't end where they're having to explain the next tournament and you just end on the match saying, you have, I'm the strong, there's no one stronger than me, and then you end the episode there, that works. And then you can explain the next challenge next episode. But with explaining the next challenge at the end of the episode, it feels like you're trying to add more humor to something that was going to be end up serious. And I've noticed with MASH, they do a lot of that where they have a couple serious moments here and there, but then the next thing they try to do is humor right after. It is hard to do that when, if you look slightly like, we bring up the show a lot, Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny can do serious things, but when they do serious things, they kind of stay with serious for a good bit. And then they might add humor somewhere along the lines within the seriousness. But it doesn't break the fact that the serious thing has weight. And I think if you're going to do more serious with this, I'm okay with that. Just kind of understand, keep the serious there, and you're good. But don't try to break it with something that's kind of supposed to be funny. Because then we get the guy, both the other dude, Mash and the red-haired dude, break their crystals. Then we get the fact that the black-haired guy with the blonde streak basically understands he's by himself. He has nowhere to get the guys. And now he's just like, why? That was supposed to be comedic because now he's by himself again. He has to try to figure out how to get through this, and somehow, some way, Mash and Dot are going to save him. That's the point, but you're setting it up super fast to set up for next episode where we're just going to see that all happen. And I think the only thing is, and I've said it, and you brought it up, Deon, basically this show is basically turning your brain off and enjoy it. And that's the point. Yeah. I also agree with you. Sometimes I just don't want to be in a state of just being a festival where I'm not just watching to watch it. Like, and I think that's going to be the balance for this because I think it's the balance because Mash is becoming himself again, but at the same time, I think they're going to try to overdo that a little bit sooner or later to the point where the serious stuff that they're going to try to do doesn't work. Because I'm looking forward to the fight between him and the Orchid dude.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that fight because I want to see how Mash can get out of the situation. Basically teasing that we're going to get that fight down the road. But also, you're also telling me that Mash can play, and I don't know if this is going to be fully true, and Chris, I don't know if you agree, Mash can be smart and dumb at the same time. And they played that in this episode once. Did anybody else notice the fact when he said that line, and then the next thing he tries to do is explain what strength is, and then he confuses himself? So basically,
bro, he actually went from, do you really know what strength is? And then just went straight to the epitome of philosophy of strength and just like left it there. Like, yeah.
And he almost confused himself to the point where he didn't understand where he was taking it. But then on the same token, we see the girl explain the rules for against the dead servant and getting the key. And you see the red-haired guy say, or not the dead servants, when they explain the one about, when he explained about the dead servant, or about not the dead servant, about the dead servants, and the red-haired guy goes, "Can you dumb that down?" Because he doesn't understand it, and he literally flips her off. It's like, okay, so he can get overloaded. So the two don't like. It's weird because they're trying to make him smart in order to use it when using his muscles, but everything else he doesn't understand. I'm surprised that it's gonna work, but I also agree with Deon. I think it's gonna be 2 next week. It's gonna be a top 2. I ultimately could see this, and I hate to say it, I could ultimately see it being at 1. I think
the only thing that would stop it from being at a 1 is the fact that the other one has not moved at all. So it clearly has a fan base that votes.
Yeah.
But I mean, let me know what y'all think, because I think they are trying to balance out both. And it's hard with a comedy anime when you can't always do serious and comedy in the same episode. And I think that's the thing they're trying to balance, but that balance is hard to master. Because, like Chris said, in a prior episode,
Hey,
season 1, somebody did flip. I
B,
think,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
Um, I'm gonna have to step away for a second.
yeah,
I'll let you guys know why off air, but I'm gonna have to step away for a second. I will reach back out to you and see if I jump back on, but I have to make a phone call really quick.
go
Um,
ahead.
I just found out some news, and they're blowing me up. So let me step away.
Yeah,
I apologize, but I will try to get back on.
okay, got it. So let's get into Soul Level episode 4. And this episode was kind of interesting. Um, not the weirdest episode, but not the groundbreaking episode that we all thought, but not the weirdest episode either.
We're
So
like
we're
the
kind of
Rocky, kind of like a Rocky episode.
yeah, yeah, basically, kind of just has the bits and pieces from that. Um, so we'll get into it. It's pretty fast paced this episode. So I hope you have up episode 4 of Soul Leveling. Um, and I'll in a minute I'll say 3, 2, 1, and then we'll get going. Chris, you ready?
Ready?
All right, and 3, 2, 1, let's go. Jeez, that punch. Yes, yes, it did. I hmm.
Go ahead and say it.
No, I was gonna say like it's interesting. We're gonna get that. It's odd because that fight feels like we're getting to see the end of something, and it doesn't feel like that should be the end of that. We should have saw the end of that fight last week, but it also feels like we're gonna get a lot. This episode basically just kind of shows how strong he's gotten over the time, but it's like we get 3 different things in that time period. In this episode that shows that.
Maybe so, but I mean, at least they're like giving some background. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, because you know where he's coming from, and but nobody really knows what he's getting himself into.
Yep. Yeah. Still like the song, by the way. Love the song.
I still like Shangri-La's better, man. That's just me personally at this point.
I love how he just says inventory and it sounds like the actual word. so you kind of get the understanding what he's trying to do.
True. I wonder if inventory is an English word. Like
It
like
probably
basically based in
based
English.
in English language. Yeah, it probably is. And there he goes. He is becoming something else.
Man.
And that's where you learn every time. That's where you learn every time he fights, he gains a level.
He- or just like any other game, and then you gain experience after each fight. And if you fight somebody hard, you're gonna jump a few levels.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, he came back and he
He came
brought
out with arm
all
like
his.
with a wolf pack.
And you notice how all of them are all red labeled.
So Chris, pause for a second. Deon joining us back. So pause at 7:14.
All right.
Gian, glad you're back. Hope everything's okay.
Man, I'll tell you.
Okay.
It just not good.
Have you seen you've seen the first 7 minutes or so, right, Dion?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna pause for a second. We'll get back into it. Basically, we're at the point where he's got all these other wolves about to attack him after killing the first couple. So in a second, I will say 3, 2, 1, and then we get going again. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Are we starting from the beginning?
7:14.
Okay.
Chris, it picked up right where you were at.
Perfect.
I could have just jumped on.
All right. So in 3, 2, 1, let's go. See, I would need more than a dinky little sword to start fighting with. By the way, like I would need like I don't know a couple swords.
But I
But a bunch
mean,
of
if that's
wolf.
all you got, though, you got to make it work.
That's true. I mean, he's worked with worse. So
Yeah, yeah.
Man.
I actually like they did this flashback here, showing the fact that he's been such called such a weak hunter. Now he's gotten stronger over time.
yeah, this anime was really well directed.
Yes, it was.
Outside of the fact that I think the first 2 episodes should have been one episode.
Not fair, fair. I agree. I give you credit. Fair. And he acquires the title Wolf Assassin. Gains 34 fangs from doing that. Which me and Chris kind of theorized on that was about 17 levels overall. You get a level per killing.
Oh wow!
Because
And it's
after you get so high, you don't get as much experience for the
more.
same kill.
Yeah,
But there is a thing that's not just like low level grinding. So like low level grinding is actually good if you just want to if you just want to keep leveling up with lower enemies.
yeah. Especially if you're like trying to break in new equipment or something like that.
Correct.
Or if you're trying to get equipment like the fangs, like if he was trying to get a bunch of fangs for something like to make money,
Mm-hmm.
this would be perfect.
Yep.
And we see Jin Hee. By the way, why are you asking this lady to do something else after she's already turned you down once after she things she's seen?
I mean, if she the only one in the area, who else can you call?
Yeah, that might show like
Yeah.
the desperation, like they have no one else to call. This monster creation is pretty cool.
Yes, it is. The monkey, still fangs, a bear looking thing.
That black shadow wolf thing, that was pretty cool.
So we don't
Oh,
know what his level would be after he faced those monsters.
correct.
I don't
But
think he
basically,
truly knows what it is now.
he brings up a point though. Did you notice that the name of the wolf fang was in red prior? Now it's in white, which
Yes.
means
So he
which
knows he's
means
getting stronger,
correct. He's getting stronger over time.
but I don't think he has a proper gauge on his strength level.
Nope.
Well, it just said that in order to enter there, he needed at least be level 15. And
That's
if it follows video game logic, if it was hard, the lettering would have came up in red too,
yes, it
but
would
it
have.
was white.
Correct.
So we know he's at least at level 15, if not higher.
And knowing his character, I don't think he would just go in at level 15. He would probably grind a couple levels higher
Yeah.
Yeah.
just to make sure he was strong enough.
Now this fight was insane.
Yeah, I like this fight, and I'll tell you one specific reason why I like this fight when it's over.
Hmm.
Woo.
He's getting tossed around like a rag doll. And almost
And
gets
then
crushed.
toss the whole train. But like I wouldn't know what to do if I saw a whole train coming at me.
I would start running. I would
But
absolutely start
but
running.
in what direction?
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, yeah, that'd be kind of.
You're covered on all grounds.
Like honestly, my best bet would probably just be the duck.
Yeah,
But tell me this, Chris, what's scarier, the train or that statue's foot?
Yeah, I'll take the train.
I love they gave him this thing with song because he says prove. He does song says prove yourself, and like he's trying to encourage him basically. By the way, this man should be not living at certain points, but
Yeah, screw that thing.
Let's go. Kindness won't
v-
save me.
very cold. But I'll explain. I think why this is actually a good character development thing for
I
him.
love it. I absolutely love it. Build that strength up, that individuality, man.
Woo,
Sage mode.
man.
He's basically in God mode at this point.
Yeah. Ultra instinct.
Woo.
And literally ripped off his about to rip off his head.
That boy cracked that armor. Ooh. Started choking that thing.
I know that I can kill you. That is powerful stuff, man.
Uh-huh. Night night. You guess. You just ripped a snake's head off. Like, ooh, yeah. A new weapon. And now it goes back to a normal train station. I love the fact he's like, wait, you didn't hear about the broadcast? What? And the guy's like, and then the main character's like, what broadcast? And he goes, wait, he's a sword. You're a hunter, right? Yes. I'm gonna show you to the battlefield. Like, doesn't bat an eyelash. Like, why'd you come out of the train like that? What's going on?
Right, like his surprise just completely went away. Like, oh, you a hunter? Come help.
Like just enlisted.
I love how he says no pictures, please, and everybody, you see the guy with his phone about to take a picture.
That's exactly what people would do.
Yes,
I'm
Can you
glad they
imagine
kept that realistic.
just how unfazed your world has to be for you to have these monsters in the street fighting, and you're just like, ooh, TikTok.
let me take a selfie.
For the
This is going on
ground.
my Instagram feed, right?
Yep.
Like y'all not even far.
Right. Like, do y'all know y'all still in striking distance?
Like what?
I love the fact he says there's 8 E ranks and 1 D rank, and the D rank is the guy with the shield, and then the other ranks are B, which he sees Jin Hee here.
She too scared to do anything.
Do you blame her? No.
Nope.
After
She
everything you
got
saw,
PTSD for real.
Yeah, I would still be having nightmares, man.
I couldn't sleep for a week at that point.
Then you thought your boo thing died on top of that? Like
And then this guy here,
this is crazy.
straight up pulls one straight out of MASH.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't know his monster. This solidifies that.
Boom.
His defense are no, he's down. There you go.
Somebody with some sense.
Right. You understand y'all didn't do nothing.
But this is where he thinks, like, wait, where did the sword come from? Yep. There we go. And look at that dude's arm, by the way.
Muscle definition.
Whew. I wouldn't know what to do if my arm looked like that. I don't even know if I can get my arm to look like that.
It's a lot of work.
Like a double spot.
That was the end of Soul Level episode 4. We'll make this kind of quick, but I'll say this: we're doing this in 3 parts, so we'll do it with the wolf section, the snake section, and then this last little section. So this wolf section pretty much starts off where he's trying to fight off these wolves. He needs to figure out what he needs to do. He's like, "Oh, I need a weapon. Oh wait, a weapon!" And he calls up his inventory like that. Doesn't blink an eye. Calls up inventory, pulls out the sword. By the way, that sword is the same sword that was left in the dungeon when they fought the giant statues, and that's the sword that the guy talked about. That the guy had from that called him weak. Talking about he was weak. So same thing. Then he fights off the two wolves. The third wolf runs away, comes back with a bunch of other wolves, and basically he has to go through them all, which he does. Goes through them all, takes them out, finish out this little section, and then we see a little montage of other things he fights. Monkey, another couple wolves, all that stuff, and they show that one of the wolves that he fought, instead of being red lettering, it's white lettering. So he's gotten stronger, and we kind of see that. So I'm gonna start off with Deon for this. Deon, what do you think about this first little section, what I'll call the wolf section?
Wow, what's there not to think? I'm just glad they showed him being able to use his inventory now, his ability basically now, versus still trying to get to know it while he's in this dungeon thing. Because who goes into a dungeon still trying to figure things out? Which is what the little glimpse of him using the key kind of made it feel like he was just diving in head first, which essentially he was, but he had a little bit more sense about it. And then fighting these red wolves, you see the growth of his character from the first wolf to the pack, from the I don't know if I can do this to the I'm actually strong enough. Let's go. Let's get this done. I love it, man.
Chris, what do you think about this first section, which is the like I say, the wolf section? What do you think about him kind of growing, like Deon said, and you seeing that growth?
Okay, so like I said, like he said, like in the beginning, the wolves are all red labeled. All that all their names have the little are red. So all of them are like can technically do him in like real easy, real quick, real simple. But just like Dion is saying, he's a kind of adjusting to his skills, to his body. See, now this is the one thing that we haven't seen in any other show, like a character's body and how it's actually reacting and how their body feels lighter. It's like all those describings we've missed that in so many other animes that have gone by. So
That's
this
true.
wolf session was a nice fresh take on this is what's everybody's been missing as far as like leveling up your character. Like right now, I'm starting to see where the name comes from.
Yep. So then we get to the snake section. Right before we get to snake section, he starts walking towards where he thinks about it for a second. He goes, "Do I continue on or do I go back?" That's when he figures out he has all the fangs and everything. He has this little stone in his hand. The stone can teleport him back. He throws the stone in the inventory and just keeps walking. Then we get to the section where he starts about to fight this snake. But before he fights the snake, he figures he kind of is like taking his time, looking at his inventories, looking at the stuff he needs. But he sees that he's level 15, and then this actual area he's in is level 15 as well. So he had to be the same level in this thing. But like Dion said while we're watching it, it could be a little bit higher based on what we haven't seen. So we could be maybe a couple levels higher than that. So then the snake finally comes out. The snake pretty much takes Jin Woo for a little bit of a taken aback because he kind of is like, I can't fight the snake. He has a lot of armor and everything. And the snake kind of overpowers him at points, but then he kind of figures out what he needs to do. And then they do a flashback. They do a couple in this. They do a flashback when Song is talking to him where he's sitting on a bench and Song tells him, "Hey, don't worry about a thing. You're going to get stronger. Don't, just keep focusing on getting stronger and you'll get better." And he says, he tells Song in this flashback, "I understand." And then as he's thinking through more of that, he's like, he gets more of the fight. He kind of figures out how to do some things, but then Snake gets overpowered him. At one point, the Snake kicks a train right into him, almost crushed him. And then we see another flashback. This other flashback is where what's ever happened from last dungeon we saw, all this other stuff happened. And he finally says, you know what? I can be afraid, I can be scared, I can be fearful, but yet I'm not going to be kind anymore. I'm going to do what's best for me, and I'm going to do it in the best of my ability to make myself stronger. So basically saying, I'm not going to be kind anymore. I'm going to be pretty much selfish and become the strongest person ever. And that is embodied when he finally figures out what he needs to do with the snake. He loses the sword. He finally just takes his hands, his bare hands, by the way, and breaks the armor of the snake. Literally getting more angry and angry and angry. And finally just cracks the snake's head off, finishes off the snake, and you see that he gains a new weapon, a bunch of levels, and the dungeon goes back to being a train station. Chris, I will start off with you. What do you think about this snake fight?
Ooh, bro. See, now this was that action. This was the stuff that we was kind of been waiting on, man. Like a little, like this was a boss fight. The only other show that's giving us an actual boss fight is Shangri-La. So,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, and I mean, bro. So this dude literally had a broken sword. He started the fight with a broken sword, bro. So already you at a disadvantage more than what you were before. You're facing an opponent that's like what 10 times your size at least. Yeah.
Probably.
Man, this was an action that I personally was waiting to see from this anime.
Okay. Dion, what do you think about the snake in this section called this? I'll say the snake boss section. What do you think about this whole little fight?
Best snake fight I have seen this year, and I've seen 6 of them. You've got the Shangri-La boss fight. You've got the boss fight from the wrong buddy used healing magic, and then there's a couple more, but this is by far the best snake fight I have seen this year. I mean, the character growth from episode 1 and 2 is amazing. You see what happens when he broke his knife the very first episode, to the point where he can now take on this giant armor-plated snake with a broken blade is amazing. To be able to understand how and why he's able to do that within this episode that's a great story. This is what I've been waiting for, to see this development take place, and it actually makes sense. It's all right there laid out for you. By the way, shouts out to whoever idea was to have him rip off his head with his bare hands.
I think that was
because there was a lot of ways he could have fought this snake, but that was an awesome adaptation of how to take the snake down.
So then we get into the back half of the section. So the back half of the section, I'm gonna kind of roll back a little bit from the snake part for this, because we get one important scene from this I didn't mention, is when Jinhee gets the phone call from the Hunter Association saying, we need your help. Something's happened with the portal, and she's like, I'm sorry about the other day. I couldn't really help y'all. I was not in the right mindset. She's like, we're short of healers. We just need your help to get this portal down. She's like, okay, let me do it. So then the next thing we see, Jin Woo beats this boss, walks out the train station. A military dude with a gun goes, wait, you're not supposed to be out here. And Jin Woo, before he says, what time is it? There's somebody out here. The military goes, you're not supposed to be out here. Didn't you hear about the broadcast? And Jin Woo is like, what broadcast? And the guy's like, you're playing, right? You did not hear about the broadcast. By the way, then he looks down at the broken sword held in Jin Woo's hand, goes, oh, are you a hunter? He's like, yes. Okay, come with me. Probably should ask other questions, but I'll digress. But then Jinhee walks with the military dude, and he uses perception to see where the fight's happening. Then he walks towards the fight. They're gonna head toward the fight, but then you see where the actual fight's happening with 8 different people, and you see one of the military guys say, "No pictures, no nothing," and you see a guy just take a picture with his phone real quick. It was kind of funny. And Jinhee gets there. Before Jinhee gets there, they're trying to beat this boss. The guy with the shield, trying to hold off the attacks. There's other people around. Jin Woo or Jin Hee is there, but she's not really focused. And one of the girls go, "Hey, we need your healing. Focus up." And then she tries to use her healing, but she kind of can't think right now because of what's happened prior, what you've seen. So she kind of breaks. And then Jin Woo walks up and goes, "I see 8 people, 8 E rank, a D rank was the shield guy, and then a B and somebody else. And the B he notices was Jin Wee, and he goes, "I'm surprised she's here, but I'm guessing she hasn't shook off what happened last couple week ago." And then he kind of thinks, "What I can do? What can I do to help?" Then he literally clutches the sword, flips it around, and I don't know if he buffed his arm or did something to it. He just grips it so tight and just chunks it. Literally chunks it to this boss, breaks off the armor. They finish off the rest of the people finish off the fight, and then the shield guy's like, "Wait, how did we do that? We won, but how? There's no way." And he kind of looks at the sword on the ground, doesn't say anything yet, but then he asks one of the military guys, "Where did that sword come from?" And he goes, "Well, it's from a hunter that was over. He was over here." And then they cut back to Jin Woo. Jin Woo, he's like, I can't believe that worked. I didn't think that was going to work at all." And then instead of they didn't show his face right away. You just see his buff arm just literally showing from the top of his shoulder down to his hand. And the fact that the man has gotten so strong where he can one shot a boss. And then you hear Jin he say, "Was that Jin Woo?" with a question mark. And then that's how the episode ends. Gentlemen, I'm going to do this last part. Deon, what do you think about this last part, which I'm going to say just the portal fight? And what do you think about how they progressed with Jin Woo and showed off how strong he's gotten?
2 quick things. One, how long was this guy in there?
Yeah, they don't give time. They don't give a time frame. That's right. They don't give a time frame.
I mean, because I know when he went in, she was getting the call, and when she got the call while he was, or just now in this episode, he said like she was like, "Sorry about the other day." So he was in there for at least a couple of days.
Uh-huh.
So that's awesome to see the difference in time. Like he was just chilling down there for a couple of days.
Don't worry about that.
Another thing, I like the way they show his abilities. They look nice when his eyes glow and like the butt just has this aura around him. I like that. But as far as the fight scene goes, worst fight I've ever seen. Worst fight I've ever seen. I've never seen a guy go down so fast. That was like Mike Tyson and a 6th grader.
Oh, wow, that's wow.
Man, that was awesome, man. To see the fact that I like how they show him using his ability, so okay, blue eyes mean he's using some type of ability, and then they just show him using raw muscle strength when he throws the sword, and that shows the I guess the gap in power he's had from 2 days ago to now. That's awesome, man.
Okay, Chris, what do you
If I
think
could,
about this back half of this episode?
man, I put it this way because I'm gonna keep it short, simple, and specific. If I can go to a dungeon and know that I'm gonna live and come out buff, I'll sign up to go on the next dungeon.
Yeah, fair enough. So I have 2 questions for you, gentlemen, and you can answer them in any order, however you want. First off, how would you rate Soul Level Episode 4? And secondly, I'm only asking this because now we've seen more of his power. What do you think? What hunter rank do you think Jinwoo is at right now? So I'll start off with Dion for this. What do you give Soul Level as a 4 rating? Soul Level Episode 4, and what hunter rank do you think Jinwoo is at right now?
Oh, you're gonna start off with me, huh? Okay. Um. Whew. Hunter rank. I think he is well on his way to being an S class hunter. I'm not sure if he's there 100% yet. I mean, I feel like there's more than just strength and power that comes with that, as far as like gear and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe he's at least above like a B class. If she's a
Okay.
B rank healer, he's got to be stronger than her, right? I
Okay.
mean, that just makes
Okay.
sense to me logically.
Okay.
Um, but he doesn't know his own strength yet, so he would probably give himself like a D rank. He'd be like, I only raised up a little bit. um,
Yeah.
now the big question: what would I rate this episode based off of the other episodes? This episode gets a perfect 10 out of 10 from me.
Wait. Okay. Hold on. Explain why. What?
Based off of the other episodes, based off of anime in general, I probably give it like a 7.5,
Okay. Fair enough.
8, something like that. But based off of the other episodes, this episode gave me everything I wanted to see from day one. Still gave me good story, still with a couple of flashbacks and stuff, still gave me enough uh growth and character. It gave me some really cool fight scenes. But what it did to me the most that made this episode like almost perfect for me was the fact that we got to see the growth. And it did, I'm gonna call it a recall from the broken knife to the broken sword that
Mm-hmm.
played on my heartstrings, and it made me like basically want want to root for the character now, whereas before I just didn't give a crap if he did anything.
Fair enough.
Based off of I've been giving two ratings today. Based off the other episodes like MASH, this gets a 10. Based off of anime in general, I'll give it a 7.58.
Okay, Chris. Same question to you. What would you rate Soul Level Episode 4? And what do you think Jinwoo's power level is at according to the Hunter Association right now?
So I would say Jinwoo's association is probably right at. I don't know if they break down their tiers anymore, but he would have to be somewhere between like a B plus to an A minus.
Okay, I can see. Yeah.
Because if the woman we saw in the previous episodes is a S tier, we know he ain't moving like that yet.
No, he's not moving like that. No.
So now, as for what I give this episode, I'm giving this episode an 8.8.
Okay, explain.
Right. I love the direction that they took this anime, but for me, as great as it was, I feel like it was something to be desired. There's something I still haven't gotten from this anime that still feels like just over the top. What it is that unlike other animes, we haven't been introduced to our main villain yet.
Okay. Okay.
Now, because right now it just seems like the dungeons are the villain, but no. In every great story, it's always man versus man, man versus himself, or you. So I'm waiting to see which conflict they're going to. And by the way, Brandon, you owe me $5.
I know,
Oh
I know
wait,
that.
what was the bet? What was the bet, man? Who thought what?
So, okay, let me explain this. So basically, he Chris had thought you wouldn't go above, you would go about 8.5, 8.5 for rating.
Okay.
You went to about 10, which I was shocked by,
Yeah.
but that makes sense. But at the same time, for the overall season, you get about 7.5, which also doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me. Um, here's my thing, and
Wait, so which score did you guys take?
it's for the episode, so it was the episode score,
Okay.
not the season ranking score.
Right.
Well, if it's not the season ranking score, the episode by itself is only a 7.5. It's a 10 based off of what the other episodes were.
What's it? Okay, all right,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you saying it's the other way around?
it's the other way around,
Yeah,
which makes
because
which
if I just watched this episode by itself and I had nothing else to go by, it would just be like a 7.5.
with context you have all that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ah, so
that's,
okay. So
that's fair.
yeah. So and overall, your middle
Yeah.
ground is still around an eight,
Yeah.
nine.
Overall, it would probably be like an 8. Like it would bridge the gate. It would be like an 8. Um,
Okay,
because
yeah,
I was like Chris said, there's still a lot to be desired from the actual anime itself. But as far as this particular episode, if this was the very first episode of Solo Leveling, I would be invested. Like
okay,
I would be like,
all
okay,
right,
let's get into this anime now. Whereas I've kind of been droning along. It's just like, let's see what's gonna happen, whatever. This episode is what makes me want to watch the rest. But compared to like Shangri-La or something like that, where you get some good episodes, it's still in question for me. But
okay, all right.
it's no
By the way,
big.
Brandon, you don't really have to give me that $5. It was just a playful bit.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree with though. I agree with that. It was kind we could. I'll say this. Here's the weird thing with this episode. I have to say his power level now, as a power level for the association, is around a. I'll go B minus to B plus. So I'm right in the range of both of y'all for that.
Yeah.
The episode itself, I would have to give this a 9, and only because I think the context of how he's gotten stronger based on his power, based on what we've seen, worked out really well. I also think too, if you didn't have the context of like, oh, he broke the knife in the first episode, but now he's had the broken sword and he knew how to use it in a way to make the fight easier for himself. Great, he learned, he grew. Also, at the same time, you gave some stories back with Jin Hee, where Jin Hee is still having the PTSD of being in that place. And now people are like, who is this hunter that did that with a broken sword? Who is this man? I have a hunch. We're going to see the Hunter Association again, and they're going to be like, what did you do? What changed since we saw you in the hospital?
Yeah.
How are you going to explain that? Like, what do you explain? How do you explain that to people? You don't.
The nurses gonna be like, well, every day he ran around and did push-ups every day.
Like, yeah. And
Yeah, never
nobody,
forget that night he disappeared though.
Yeah.
but see, nobody's going to believe that because they're like, there's no way.
Right.
But now you can see a man that has grown so much to the point where he's like, I'm not gonna be kind anymore. I'm gonna basically do my own thing. On top of that, I'm gonna get so strong to the point where people are gonna have to care. And I don't think this is gonna be a plot point or anything, but they kind of teased it. He's gonna get his girl back. The first time Jin Hee sees him where he is now, she's gonna be shocked.
I just want to see how dude
I
gonna
think
be when
he's
he
gonna.
get back in the dungeon.
Yeah, the actual. I want to see him in the actual dungeon because he's gonna go to an E-rank dungeon first. He's not gonna go
Mm-hmm.
straight to the top.
No, he's going to E-Rank Dungeon first. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so man, he's just going through there with like rocks and killing all the goblins.
I think the thing with this show, you have to watch it in context, and that context will give you everything you need. That's the hard thing about this because I'm still reading the manga, listening to the manga, not reading it, listening to it on Spotify, and I'm at this point pretty much in the manga. I'm at the point where he's in the hospital right now. I'm trying to go through all that, learning about everything. I want to see what the manga has that's changed this part because there's probably a few things missing. I will say,
That
but
part
not
is more
enough.
detailed in the manga, right?
Yes, the
This
part of
one.
the hospital
Yeah.
part is more detailed in the manga. I would think this next episode is going to be more detailed in the manga,
Yeah.
where it's going to explain everything a little bit more.
That was
Which I'm
one of
okay.
my gripes. So you're right about that. Having to think of it in context, because that was one of my gripes with the last episode. Was I knew in the manga it was more detailed than what they gave us, and it was like, but my bad, I cut you off.
No, you're good. But I think that's the thing. They're going to have people want to go find the manga, and that's been the point about this. The manhwa is going to be the thing people are going to go back to and go, I need to listen to this. I need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. If that's the case, after a certain point, people are like, I need to go find where this manga, where can let's do it? Where can I find it? We're going to read it to get the context because the manga gives you more context to what the episode is trying to do. And I think that's going to be a downside for a lot of people because that context isn't there in the episode itself. They pull out a lot of things that don't necessarily need to be there. Good example, I think when his sister comes sees him in the hospital, that whole conversation is the same except for like 2 lines, and the 2 lines that are different is her talking about the game, like him talking about her playing games, and the fact that she goes to college because she was trying to help her mother. We don't really get that in the anime. For that purpose, she wants to do better for her mother, try to figure out a cue for her, and then her friend sitting out of the hospital isn't even a thing in the manhwa. It's just it is there for the anime to show that she has somebody that appreciates her. So it's kind of interesting to see the contrast. But I'm looking forward to where Soul Level goes next because I think this show is going to kind of build up the hype. And yes, even though we're missing a big bad, I'd rather have the big bad later down the road when we have some reason to have a big bad. Because if you're just going to throw a big bad here now, it doesn't really have a reason for it. I don't mind the dungeon hunting. I don't mind the fact you're going to have different dungeon or different rifts and stuff to go through as long as you have a reason for him to grow. But that was episode 41 of the Anime Dojo. Ladies and gentlemen, this ride is going to be interesting. We're going to be at episode 5 of all these shows now. We're mostly to the halfway point. Once we get to that point, it's going to pretty much be all downhill from there. But I hope you stay along for this ride because we're going to go into next week will be episode 5 of Soul Leveling and episode 17 of Matching and Muscles. I do thank you for listening. Hope you did enjoy. This will go up on Spotify right after it processes, and then I'll put it up on YouTube the next day. I do thank Chris and Deon for joining me, and we'll hope you hear from next time. See you.
See ya.
Later.